What's up guys, Meredith with ExtremeTerrain.com, and today we're checking out the PowerStop Z36 Extreme Truck and Tow Brake Rotor Pad and Caliper Kit for the front and rear, fitting all 2007 through 2018 JK Wranglers. Now, if your brakes aren't cutting it and you're in search of a full replacement to increase the stopping power or stopping performance on your JK, then this is going to be a great set to consider. Now, the Z36 Truck and Tow series is specifically tailored to offer the JK owner that extra bite that your Jeep may need if your build is on the heavier side because of larger wheels and tires, heavy armor, added cargo, or all of the above. Now, while it will give you the benefit of better stopping power and of course the sporty look considering the components on the table here, this will include everything that you need to make the full swap, leaving you with no questions asked when it comes time to install. This kit features a list of benefits in the realm of braking performance, including noise-free stopping thanks to the dual rubberized shims on the back of the pads, so you have no annoyance when you're driving, even with a higher performance pad. The included pads will also keep your wheels cleaner with less brake dust than stock, which is an added bonus, so you're not constantly cleaning your wheels. The pads will also be designed to allow air in to keep them cooler, but the big cooling factor here is the front and rear drilled and slotted G3000 rotors. Now, those machine details in each of the rotors, in addition to the veining on the inside, is going to help channel air in to cool down the rotor and keep the surface of the rotor clean for efficient and optimal braking, especially under load. Now, last but not least are the calipers. These are going to be a single piston system, very similar to the factory, yet improved with maximum fluid flow for responsive braking, and will elevate the look because of that bright red appearance. This kit will be strong and one that you can definitely rely on when it comes to its construction. Starting off with the rotors, these will have a cast iron build with drilled and slotted details, as you can see, to improve that cooling, and they're also going to feature a zinc plated finish on top to help with longevity, especially in poor weather conditions. The pads will have a carbon fiber ceramic compound, which is specifically tailored to those heavier applications, while also giving you comfortable day-to-day driving characteristics. The 4 calipers in the kit will also have a cast iron construction, that bright red powder coat that you can't miss to protect the iron underneath from rusting and to make them very easy to clean. And on the inside, we'll have EPDM rubber seals to extend the lifespan even in those high temps. Now, the kit will also come with all stainless steel hardware for good durability and rust resistance, as well as grease for the install, again making this a fully inclusive kit. This kit will come in at about $900, which will put this at a higher price point, but is well warranted for what's included here. Now, when taking a look at the other performance brake options, this will include, again, everything that you need for the front and back to gain that extra stopping power, with the exception of brake lines. But it's also going to just refresh the braking system as a whole on all 4 corners if you want to take care of everything in one shot. Now, I think if your JK isn't in need of a big brake kit that you'll be dishing out a lot of cash for, but you still want a major improvement in a solid and fully inclusive kit, then this is going to be a great choice to consider. Installing this will be a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter and will probably take you about 3 hours to get the job done. Now, while it is not necessary, if you do notice that your brake lines are in need of attention while you are replacing the calipers, we do have full sets available on the site tailored to whatever lift height that you may have. Now, at this point, we can head over to our shop and check out a detailed breakdown on how to get all of this onto your JK at home. So that is going to wrap it up for my review. Let's go ahead and get into the install.
The tools you'll need for this project are a 10mm, an 18mm, and a 21mm wrench, a 3/8 ratchet, a 13 and a 15mm socket, a small flathead screwdriver, a brake clamp, a caliper hanging tool, a ball peen hammer, a vacuum pump, some brake cleaner, and a clean cloth. Hi everyone, today we're installing a set of rotors, pads, and calipers on our Jeep Wrangler, so let's get started with the uninstall first. So normally when we do a complete brake job such as this, first thing I would do is put a clamp on the brake hose. And you can get these clamps at most auto parts stores. And the way it works is you just open it up like so, clamp it down on the hose so that it cuts off the flow of brake fluid to the caliper, and then lock it in place with the locking ring. But because our vehicle actually has braided stainless lines on there, we can't use the clamp on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the caliper from the vehicle, and we're just going to hang it on the frame rail for right now and get the rotor out of the way And then what we'll do is when we assemble the new brake caliper with new pads in it, we'll get that installed, and then we'll do a quick transfer of the brake hose from the old caliper to the new caliper, hopefully losing as little fluid as possible. So the first thing we're going to do is remove our caliper, and there's two bolts in the back here, one at the top and one at the bottom. So we're going to use our 18mm wrench to take those off, and then we can slide the caliper away from the rotor. Now, if you've got a ratcheting wrench, it makes life a whole lot easier, but you can use just a standard 18mm wrench on these bolts. All right, so now that we've got the top one broke loose, now we'll get to the bottom one here. And normally you can use a ratchet on these, but because of the sway bar link in the way, it's not giving us the access we need for a ratchet. All right, now we've got the lower one removed. We'll finish taking out the one on top. And with both bolts removed, just slide the caliper away. And then we'll use our caliper hanging tool to hang this up on the frame rail. Now, depending on the condition of your rotors and the age of your vehicle, you may come across a situation where your rotor seems like it's stuck. So you want to use a little bit of spray lube, go around the hub area here and around each of the lugs. Just give it a little penetrant. And let it soak in for a few minutes, and then you may have to use a hammer to hit on the flat spot here or on the edge of the rotor here to go ahead and get this to break free. All right, so now we're going to use our ball peen hammer, and like I said, we're just going to hit it on the flat surface here, making sure that we don't hit the studs because you don't want to damage the threads there. And once you've got it broke loose, you can go ahead and slide your rotor right off. All right, now to uninstall our front brakes on our Jeep, normally you would have, if you don't have a lifted vehicle or if you don't have aftermarket stainless steel braided hoses, you're going to have a rubber hose. So the first thing you're going to want to do is clamp that hose off with something like what you see here that you can find at most auto parts stores. And you're just going to put it on the hose close to the fitting, the hardline fitting, clamp it down to cut off any brake fluid flow, and then slide the ring down to hold it in place. Now obviously we can't do that with a braided steel hose, so our process is going to be a little bit different. So basically what we're going to do is remove the caliper, hang it up on the frame for a little bit, take off the rotor, and then we'll load up the new caliper with the brake pads, install that, and then we'll do a fast as possible changeover to disconnect the brake line from the old caliper, put it on the new caliper, and hopefully lose as little brake fluid as possible. So normally I would have you just go ahead and clamp this off and remove the banjo bolt on the back, and then just remove the two bolts that hold the caliper onto the spindle and get it out of the way. So let's go ahead and get started on this. So first thing we're going to do is clip off these zip ties that hold our speed sensor wire to our brake hose. That'll give us the movement that we need to be able to move the caliper and hang it off of the frame. We'll just clip these off. Now on yours, assuming that it's just a stock vehicle, these little rubber grommets right here will just snap out of a clamp with no tools required. Now the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove the two 21mm bolts in the back that hold our caliper mounting bracket to the spindle. We've got one at the top, one down here at the bottom. So we'll use our 21mm wrench, take those off, then we can slide the caliper straight out and we'll hang it up on the frame rail. So there's our lower bolt. Now we'll remove our top bolt. And we'll slide our caliper off. And we'll just hang it up on our caliper hanging tool and just get it out of the way. Now we just grab a hold of our rotor and slide it straight out. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and load up our calipers with the new brake pads that come in the kit. Now this process is going to be exactly the same for the front brakes as well as the rear brakes. So we'll show you on one of them and you can repeat the process for all the rest of the calipers. First thing you're going to want to do is open up the caliper from the mounting bracket. So using a 13mm socket, just remove one of the bolts that hold the caliper to the mounting bracket. And just open it up like so. Now, once you've got it open, the kit does come with these new retaining clips. One end, if you look at it directly on, you'll see one of the sides is shorter than the other. So the longer side here is going to go towards the bottom of, or depending on how you look at it, the top of the caliper mounting bracket. And they just snap into place. So there'll be two on each side, one for the inside and one for the outside. Always got to be that one. All right, so now we've got our retaining clips in. We can go ahead and install our pads. Now to install the pads, before you do that, the kit does come with some lubricant for the pads. Now it doesn't take a whole lot for each one, so be very careful when you put this on, but you just basically want to open this up and put a little bit on the ends where the pads slide into the mounting bracket, and then spread some on the back side here on both pads where it meets the piston and it meets the caliper itself. That'll just help reduce some of the noise and help it operate a little more smoothly. Now, because we're not doing this as a permanent addition to our vehicle, we're not actually going to put the lubricant on. Now you'll also notice that there is a difference in the pads themselves. Now the front pads obviously are going to be larger than the rear pads, but they've also got a wear indicator on one pad, no wear indicator on the second one. So the one that has the wear indicator is going to go towards the piston side of the caliper. So when we put this in, we'll slide it in like so. Making sure that our wear indicator is on the side of the piston. Then we can install the other pad on the other side. And again, these just slide right in. The only thing that you'll have to be aware of is making sure that they're in far enough so that when you close the caliper up, it clears the pads. Once you've got it closed, go ahead and reinstall the bolt. Tighten it up with your 13mm socket. And like I said, you can repeat this process for all four calipers. The process is exactly the same. You just have to make sure that you're using the correct pads on the correct caliper. Now the rotors in this kit, because they are slotted and drilled, they are side specific. Now obviously you can tell right now this is for the front driver's side because there's a sticker on there that says front driver's side. However, if by some chance you don't have that sticker, there's another way that you can tell that this is for the driver's side front. One is that along the outside edge of the rotor here is a bunch of numbers and letters that are designating the part number and minimum and maximum thicknesses. If you look on the outside edge, first thing you'll see is the part number itself, and at the very end of that part number you will see either an L or an R. L means driver side, for the left side of the vehicle. R is for the right side or passenger side of the vehicle. The other way that you can tell is by looking at the direction of the slots and the drilled holes. If they start towards the center and go to the outside pointing to the rear of the vehicle, you know you've got the correct rotor for the correct side of the vehicle. So that being said, let's go ahead and get our rotor cleaned up and ready for install. Now one of the things that I like to do, just to make things a little bit easier, you go ahead and put it on backwards over the spindle. That way it'll hold it in place. And then spray it down with some brake cleaner and wipe it down with a clean cloth. That way it removes any manufacturing residue that may have been left on there when they built the product. Also, it cleans it off for anything that may have gotten on it during shipping. So we're just going to spray this down on the contact surface and then wipe it down with a clean cloth. Now, once you've got it wiped down, go ahead and flip it over and do the same thing for the other side. Now, one other thing that you can do makes life a little bit easier when you're installing the rotor and the caliper is just go ahead and put a lug nut on there, just finger tight, just to hold the rotor in place. That way it's not moving around when you're putting on the caliper. Now let's go ahead and get that caliper installed. Now, in addition to the rotors being side specific, the calipers are side specific as well. So you want to make sure when you're looking at this, getting ready to mount it, that the brake bleeder screw is at the top from where the brake hose connects. So when we put it on this way, we've got our brake hose down here, our brake bleeder up here, we know we've got the right side. The other thing is, make sure that your pads on the inside of the caliper are pushed as far apart from each other as they can be so that it'll slide right over top of the rotor. So let's go ahead and get this on now. All right, now we slide our caliper over our rotor, and then using the original hardware, we'll go ahead and secure that back to the spindle. And then using our 21mm wrench, we'll go ahead and tighten those bolts up. Now at this point, we're actually ready to hook up our brake hose back to our caliper. Now the system also comes with these 2 copper washers for each caliper. So you're going to need one on each side of your brake hose that connects to the caliper. Now, provided that you're working on a vehicle that has not been modified and you've got the rubber brake hose, you've already removed the banjo bolt that holds the brake hose to the caliper. So what you're going to do is make sure that it's clean, stick one of these washers on the bolt itself, and then you're going to put the bolt through the banjo fitting and then put the copper gasket on the other side as well, and then you can go ahead and screw the bolt into the back of the caliper. Now, since ours is a little bit of a different situation, we're going to have to do ours a little bit differently. So at this point, I can go ahead and remove the brake hose from the caliper, remove the copper gaskets, replace them with the new ones, hopefully very quickly so that we don't lose all of our brake fluid, and then go ahead and get that attached. So let's go ahead and get that done. All right, so we're going to use our 15mm socket to remove the banjo bolt here. We're going to pull it out and move as quickly as possible to get our new gaskets on there and get it back into the new caliper. As you can see, it's already dripping out. So you want to make sure that you've got a drain pan or a bucket or something to catch the brake fluid that's coming out. So now we've got our banjo bolt out. We need to remove the gaskets that are on there. Now you may run across a situation like what we have here where the gasket has been on there so long and it's been compressed because copper is a soft material. It's kind of gotten itself stuck on the bolt. So you may use a small flathead screwdriver to kind of pry that off. And then once you get that off, go ahead and, like I said, put one of the gaskets on there, put it into the banjo fitting, put the gasket on the other side, and then we can go ahead and get that attached to our caliper. We'll go ahead and screw our bolt in. And tighten it down with our 15mm socket. All right, now we're ready to do the rears, and the process is basically the same as the fronts. The only difference is now we've got our parking brake here as well to deal with. So now's a good time to just go ahead and give that a good inspection. Make sure you've got no broken springs. Make sure you've got plenty of pad material left. And then just as an extra step, go ahead and spray it down with some brake cleaner. Make sure that it's nice and clean. All right, now as long as the pads are in good condition and there's no broken springs, we can go ahead and proceed with the rest of the install. So now we'll go ahead and spray down both sides of our rotor here, make sure that there's no manufacturing residue on it, it's nice and clean. Then we'll flip it over and do the same thing on the other side and get this installed. All right, now we'll go ahead and install our caliper. And using the original hardware, We'll go ahead and install the upper bolt. And now using our 18mm wrench, we'll go ahead and tighten those back up. All right, now at this point, we're ready to reconnect our brake hose to our caliper. Now, assuming that you have the rubber hoses, you won't have any difficulty with this. You just need to make sure that you take the copper gaskets off of the banjo bolt and replace it with the new one supplied in the kit, and go ahead and reinstall it back on the caliper. Now for us, it's going to be a little different, like I said, because we're not able to clamp off this hose. So we're going to have to work as fast as we can to get those gaskets off of the banjo bolt and get it reinstalled before losing too much brake fluid. So using our 15mm socket, we'll go ahead and break that loose. And again, you'll want to have your drain pan or your bucket underneath there to catch any of the brake fluid that does leak out. Like that. Now in our case, both of the gaskets stayed attached to the caliper, so it'll be a faster process. We'll just put new gasket on the back side, slide it into the brake hose, put the gasket on the other side, and go ahead and install it into the back of the caliper. And now we'll tighten it down with our 15mm socket. Now at this point, once you've got the install done on one side, you can go ahead and repeat this whole uninstall and install process for the other side. Making sure, of course, once you're done, you torque everything down to vehicle manufacturer's recommended specifications. And once you've got that done, now we'll go ahead and start the brake bleed process. And to do this, typically you're going to want to start on the caliper that is the farthest away from the master cylinder. So in our case, because our master cylinder is on the driver's side in the front, we're going to start on the passenger side in the rear. Then we'll move to the driver's side rear. Then once that one is bled, we'll go to the passenger side front, and finally we'll do the driver's side front. Now you want to do this in that order to remove the most air the fastest and easiest. So now we'll go ahead and get started on our brake bleed process. Now there are several different ways that you can do a brake bleed process. You can do it manually if you've got another person to sit in the vehicle and pump the brakes for you while you operate the brake bleeder. Another way, a lot more efficient, is a one-person way by using a vacuum pump brake bleeder kit that you can find at most parts stores. So it's got a vacuum pump on it, it's got a receptacle, a couple of hoses, and a couple of rubber fittings that will fit over top of your brake bleeder screw. So what we're going to do is you're going to loosen up the brake bleeder using a 10mm wrench, install this fitting on one end, you have your receptacle in the middle, and your vacuum pump on the other end. And then once you crack that bleeder screw, then you're going to go ahead and just start pumping up on the pump itself, sucking out all of the air and some of the brake fluid as well. So you want to make sure before you start this that your master cylinder is at the full mark. Now, once you start doing this process, you'll see the air bubbles as well as the brake fluid coming out. And all you have to do is just keep doing this until you see no more air bubbles coming out and it's just clear brake fluid. Once you reach that point, go ahead and close the brake bleeder up and move on to your next wheel. Like I said, always start from the caliper that is the farthest away from the master cylinder, which in this case would be the passenger side rear, but for demonstration purposes, we'll show you how to do this on the driver's side rear. So we're going to loosen up our brake bleeder screw on the back of the caliper using our 10mm wrench. And it doesn't have to be open very far. We'll go ahead and attach our fitting to the back side and then just start pumping up our vacuum pump. And you can just watch it through the clear hose. As long as it's got air bubbles in it, like I said earlier, you just keep going. Until you have no more air bubbles coming out. Once you've got nothing but fluid coming out, go ahead and close your bleeder screw. Remove your fitting. Tighten the bleeder screw up. And then you can move on to the next wheel. Now I do also advise after every wheel, check the fluid level in your master cylinder, make sure that it's still full, and then proceed to the next wheel. And that wraps up our review and install of the PowerStop Z36 Extreme Truck and Tow Brake Rotor Pad and Caliper Kit for the front and rear of your 07 to 18 Jeep Wrangler JK. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Wrangler, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.